We moved into the house on a quiet afternoon. There were no storms, no warning signs, no strange feelings at first. It was just an old place, large, quiet, too quiet, sitting at the end of a narrow street that barely anyone used anymore. The price was absurdly low. That alone should have been enough to make us walk away. But my father didn't believe in coincidences. He believed in opportunities. "This house is a second chance," he said while signing the papers. "A place like this doesn't appear twice." I remember standing in the living room for the first time, surrounded by boxes, listening to the echo of our own footsteps. The house absorbed sound in a strange way. Not muffled, absorbed. As if it didn't want noise to linger. There were many doors. Too many. Every hallway led to more rooms than made sense for a house of that size. Some doors were newer, others looked ancient, scratched, worn down by time or something else. The first night passed without incident. The second night too. By the third night, we noticed the first lock. It happened at exactly midnight. A dry, mechanical click echoed through the hallway. Sharp enough to wake everyone. We rushed toward the sound and found the guest room door completely locked from the inside. My uncle had been sleeping there. We knocked. We called his name. We tried to force the door. Nothing. No sound came from inside. When morning arrived, the door was unlocked. The room was empty. No blood. No signs of struggle. No broken window. No explanation. At first, we told ourselves he must have left early. Maybe he panicked. Maybe he was playing a cruel joke. But his phone was still on the nightstand. His shoes were still under the bed. His wallet was untouched. People don't disappear like that. That was when the house stopped being just a house. It became something else. Something that watched. That night, we stayed awake together in the living room, refusing to sleep behind closed doors. We believed awareness could protect us. At midnight, another click. This time, it was the bathroom door. My cousin screamed. She had gone in just minutes earlier. We reached the door in seconds, pounding, crying, begging her to answer. Silence. Morning came again. The door opened by itself. She was gone. Fear spread through the house like poison. Slow. Thick. Impossible to escape. No one wanted to be alone. No one wanted to sleep. No one wanted to admit what we were all thinking. The doors weren't malfunctioning. They were choosing. And deep inside, I felt something far worse than fear. I felt recognition. As if the house already knew us. After the second disappearance, the house stopped being just a place. It became a presence. No one spoke loudly anymore. No one laughed. Even breathing felt intrusive, as if every sound needed permission. Each step echoed through the halls with a strange weight, as though the floor itself was listening. We started avoiding doors. We left everything open, bedrooms, bathrooms, closets, believing that if no door was fully closed, the house wouldn't have a choice to make. We were wrong. On the fourth night, we tried to outsmart time. We stayed awake, scattered throughout the house, each of us watching a different clock. Phones, wristwatches, the old clock in the living room. At 11:59, silence swallowed the house whole. When the minute hand crossed midnight, nothing happened. For a brief, foolish moment, relief washed over us. That was when we heard it. Not one sound, but two. Two sharp clicks. Perfectly synchronized. Cold. Deliberate. My parents' bedroom. And the storage room at the back of the house. My father ran first. My mother followed, screaming his name. I stayed frozen in place, my chest tightening with a certainty I didn't yet understand. The storage room had chosen the dog. At dawn, when the door unlocked itself, we found only the leash lying on the floor. No blood. No struggle. No sign of pain. Just absence. The door to my parents' bedroom never opened. That was when we learned the house's cruelest rule so far. It could choose more than one. The next morning, panic took over. We packed bags frantically, throwing clothes inside without thinking. Keys were grabbed. Phones charged. The plan was simple: leave immediately and never look back. The front door looked normal. Too normal. The handle turned freely in my hand. But the door didn't move. Not even a fraction. There were no locks. No chains. No visible reason. And yet, it refused to open. We tried the windows next. Every single one was sealed shut. We pushed. We hit. We screamed. Nothing broke. The glass didn't crack. The wood didn't splinter. The walls absorbed every as if the house itself were made of something alive, flexible, patient, unyielding. By nightfall, we understood something terrifying. The house would decide when we could leave. That night, none of us slept. We sat on the living room floor, backs against the wall, positioning ourselves as far away from doors as possible. As if distance could save us. It couldn't. At exactly midnight, the sound came from a place that made no sense. The kitchen pantry. My younger brother was too close. He didn't scream. He just looked at me, confused, almost curious, as if he wanted to ask a question he never got to finish. The door slammed shut with enough force to make us stumble backward. We tried to open it immediately. We already knew. At dawn, the pantry was empty. No noise had come from inside during the night. No sign of fear. Only silence. Hunger crept in. So did exhaustion. And with them came something worse. Suspicion. Arguments erupted over nothing. Accusations flew. Guilt spread like poison. Everyone searched desperately for logic, for rules, for something to cling to. That was when I started noticing what others didn't. The house wasn't choosing randomly. Every person who disappeared shared something invisible. My uncle had stolen money from his own mother and never confessed. My cousin destroyed a marriage and pretended she had no responsibility. My father had ruined lives through unfair contracts, smiling while families collapsed. And my brother knew something. And stayed silent. That's when the truth settled in my chest like a stone. The house didn't kill. It judged. And suddenly, I wasn't afraid of the next door. I was afraid of what the house knew about me. I spent the entire day walking through the house in silence. While my mother sat on the living room floor, hugging her own body as if trying to keep herself from falling apart, I moved slowly through the hallways. I touched the walls, ran my fingers over the doors, rested my forehead against the cold wood. I wasn't looking for cracks or secret mechanisms. I was looking for a reaction. And I felt one. The house wasn't empty. It wasn't haunted in the way movies try to explain. There were no whispers, no shadows moving on their own, no sudden screams in the dark. What I felt was worse. Attention. The uncomfortable sensation that something was listening, not passively, but carefully. As if every step, every breath, every thought was being registered. So I spoke. At first, my voice came out weak, uncertain. If you can hear me. Nothing happened. No sound. No movement. I swallowed and tried again, louder this time. I know you're not choosing randomly. The air changed. It wasn't dramatic, but it was undeniable. The room felt heavier, like the pressure before a storm. The curtains shifted slightly, even though the windows were closed. That was my answer. I kept going. You're judging us. At the end of the hallway, one of the doors creaked. It didn't close. It didn't open. It simply acknowledged me. That's when the most terrifying realization settled in. The house wasn't reacting to everyone. It was reacting to me. I started replaying every disappearance in my mind. My uncle, charming, generous in public, but secretly stealing money from his own mother for years, never admitting it, never feeling guilt. My cousin, destroying a marriage and pretending she had no responsibility, convincing herself she was the victim. My father. My father was harder to face. He had built his life on manipulation. Contracts designed to trap people. Deals that looked fair until it was too late. Families ruined, savings destroyed, all hidden behind polite smiles and expensive suits. He never apologized. He never looked back. And my brother. That memory hit me all at once. Months before we moved, my father had called me into his office. He told me the house was an opportunity, too cheap to ignore. He told me not to ask questions. To trust him. My brother was listening behind the door. Later that night, he came to my room, pale and shaking. I looked it up, he whispered. Families disappear there. People die. Lawsuits vanish. Records are sealed. He begged me to tell someone. I didn't. I told him to stay quiet. I said if we talked, my father would lose everything. I said it was probably rumors. I chose silence. And now my brother was gone. Sitting alone in his empty room, staring at the bed he would never sleep in again, I understood why the house had chosen him. But understanding that led to something far worse. It had chosen him because of me. That night, I sat in the middle of the living room floor and began to confess. Out loud. Everything. Every lie I told to protect myself. Every truth I buried to keep things comfortable. Every moment I knew something was wrong and did nothing. My mother watched me, confused and terrified, but I didn't stop. If you want justice, I said, my voice breaking, then judge me too. The clock ticked closer to midnight. 11:59. Midnight. Nothing happened. No door closed. No lock turned. For the first time since we arrived, the house remained completely silent. But I didn't feel relief. I felt certainty. The judgment wasn't over. It was waiting. I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of the doors anymore, but because I understood something worse. The house wasn't waiting for midnight. Midnight was waiting for us. I sat on the living room floor as the darkness slowly shifted around me. The house no longer felt hostile. It felt patient. Like a judge who already knows the verdict but allows the defendant to speak anyway. My mother finally broke the silence. "Why didn't it take you?" she whispered. I didn't answer. Because the truth was more terrifying than any explanation I could give. The house hadn't taken me yet because I was still useful. I stood up and walked through the hallway. Each door seemed aware of my presence now. The air felt heavier with every step, as if the walls were listening, remembering. I stopped in front of the last door. The one that had never closed. The one at the end of the corridor. My room. I had avoided it since the first night. Slowly, I opened it. Inside, everything was exactly as I left it, except for the mirror. Something was written on the glass. Not scratched. Not painted. Written from the inside. You knew. My legs gave out. I collapsed to the floor, staring at my reflection fractured by that single sentence. I remembered every moment I chose comfort over truth. Every time I told myself it wasn't my responsibility. Every silence I justified as loyalty. The house didn't punish sins. It punished cowardice. At 11:58 p.m., the lights flickered. My mother screamed from the living room. I ran. All the doors were open now. Every single one. Except one. The front door. Midnight arrived without a sound. No clicks. No locks. Just a deep, suffocating stillness. Then the house spoke, not with words, but with certainty. I understood the final rule. The house only releases those who choose judgment over silence. I turned to my mother. She was crying, shaking, broken by grief and fear. "I need to tell the truth," I said. She looked at me, confused. I walked to the center of the house and spoke loudly, clearly, without hesitation. I confessed everything. The lies. The omissions. The deal my father made. The documents I saw and chose to ignore. The warning signs I buried. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't beg. I owned it. The house responded. Not with violence. But with release. The front door unlocked. Slowly. Deliberately. The first door that ever opened. My mother ran outside, collapsing onto the ground, breathing fresh air like someone returning from the dead. I stayed. The house wasn't finished with me. I walked back to my room. The mirror was clean now. No writing. Just my reflection. The door closed behind me. This time, I didn't fight it. Because I finally understood. The house didn't kill people. It kept the ones who refused to change. And I stayed. To make sure it never judged in silence again.